Hey everybody, this is Kaide Lothbrok, the Deathmatch Asgardian. Can't even say my own damn name, but you're listening to the 3 Count Podcast.
Well, now, by this time, when you hear this kind of intro, it usually means one thing. This is now Enter the Ring 201, and that means one thing. We bring back people who we had great conversations with, and in this case, you guys can see the man right next to me. He is the Nordic God himself, and he won't tell you he is one, but he is one. All right, you guys can find this man at Tesla Strain. You can find this man up and down from New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware. I feel like I see you everywhere, man. I'm not even gonna front. Like it's just you just keep popping up with more and more places that you're attending. You know, he is the great and powerful Kaide Lothbrok.
What's going on, man?
Not much, man. I definitely appreciate you coming back on our show and like having this conversation with me. I'm hyped for this.
Yeah, of course, man. Anytime.
Yeah. So let's hop into this thing because like the one thing I definitely want to talk about, right, is that you've gone through this incredible journey of like getting physically in shape and getting yourself prepared to do more. And I remember like I was reading, I think it was like when your Facebook post or maybe it was like a Twitter post or something, but it was like you were talking about how back when you were a lot bigger, right? Like you had all like this protection around you, and now that you're kind of like getting down from, I think would you say like 400, and now you're down to like
the heaviest I ever was like 390. So I mean, yeah, basically 400. But it was technically 398. But I mean, what's a pound or two, right? At that point.
But then like you're down to like what 250?
On a good day, like 248. On a bad day, like 252. I'm in that range. So it's about 150 pounds, give or take. I mean, yeah. I mean, it was. I tell people all the time. The pandemic. It sucked for everybody. For multiple reasons, but as weird or twisted this may sound, for me, it was kind of a blessing in disguise because, being the size I was at and not being able to, not working the shoot job or being on the road for wrestling. I'm home. So, now I wound up cooking a lot more for myself, and then basically it was either, you sit at home, I think everyone at the beginning of the pandemic was like, oh, I don't have to work for a week or two. This is great. All of a sudden 2 weeks turns into a month, turns into, all of a sudden I found myself, I've been at home for like 2 months. So I was bored. I was like, I need to do something. So just went ahead and I was like, all right, well, started going to the local park and the trails, and me and my girlfriend at the time, now fiance, we just started doing like a half mile and then started doing like a mile and just started walking. And then as soon as the gyms opened up, that was, I was right back into the thick of it. The whole weight loss thing, in 2016, I got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and I wasn't at my heaviest. I went through a bad breakup, the whole nine. I was drinking a lot, taking pills, doing things I shouldn't have been doing. And I blew up to about 340, and I got what's called ketoacidosis, which basically it's like, I don't know if you know anything about like diabetes or blood sugar or stuff, but like your blood sugar is supposed to be like 100 to like at most like 160, 170 is pushing it. My blood sugar was like 600, which is like teetering on. So basically what ketoacidosis is, like your blood basically turns acidic from like, I guess, all the sugar and stuff that's in it, and because your body's not processing it, basically poisoning yourself. So long story short, went to the hospital, and the doctor's like, you're type 2. Now I found out after reconnecting with my dad for the past few years that he's type 2, and my grandfather was. But type 2, so basically he's like, you got to change your life, otherwise you're not going to make it. And then started to lose some weight, but not where I needed to be. And then, like I said, the pandemic came along, and just kind of put my nose to the grindstone, and literally I would say it was probably about a year and a half to where I'm at now. The lowest I got down was 237, and I just didn't like the way I felt. I was like, very, I mean, it was healthy, The big thing for me, the whole goal this entire time was not about wrestling. It wasn't about anything other than I want to be type 2 diabetes free. And last year, October of 2022, I was officially declared diabetes free. So yeah, that was like the big thing. Um, and then so going back to it, like I said, I had an alcohol addiction. And then once I stopped drinking, well, then that addiction transferred over to food. As any addict could tell you, you just trade one, yeah, the alcohol is horrible, but you just traded that addiction for food, which is safer, but then you become, all of a sudden you're at McDonald's. Plus, man, being on the road as a worker, you're not exactly finding, the greatest food. It's either, I mean, let's be honest, dude. I don't think many of us want to be eating a protein bar from 7-Eleven or Sheetz or whatever at, 2 o'clock in the morning. You grab yourself McDonald's, Taco Bell, whatever it is, and then you hit the road. So, like I said, man, food, alcohol was my addiction. Then it became food, and now it's the gym, which, again, as better as it is than the other two, being in the gym all the time, anything in large quantities is not good for you, But for me, the gym is not just my health, but also my mental health. It's been a big, like, if I don't go to the gym, my fiance will contest to it. If I don't go to the gym in the morning, I'm off the entire day. I'm moody. I'm this, I'm that. It's, like I go to the gym, man. I have my pre-workout, which is I am a big proponent of Eddie Hall, Brian Shaw, which are world men. Eddie Hall's from Europe, so their measurements are in metrics. So like they don't do ounces, they do liters. So his shaker bottle is 1 liter. So 1 liter of water during my workout, with my pre-workout, that's my morning coffee. I have my BCAs after that. So I'm 2 liters of water in. And that's like my routine. And if I don't go and do my routine, I'm completely off for the entire day.
Yeah, I 100% hear that. I know for me, like and it sounds funny, but my daughter was the reason why like I started getting into the gym, right? And I say because, it was back, I think it was like 2016 actually. Now that we're like talking about this, like end of 2016, early 2017, something like that. She looked at me and I kept trying to convince myself that I was like in good shape. I was like, yo, I'm happy, whatever. And I was like trying to, but then my daughter came to me and she was like, Daddy, you're kind of squishy. And like, and my wife laughed, like she like giggled, but she wasn't like trying to like. And I realized at that moment, I was like, oh my god, like I've become that guy. Like I keep telling myself that I'm in good shape, and like so I was like, I gotta find a gym, I gotta start working out, right? I gotta get all this stuff going, and then like I was like, finally, I decided I was like, all right, let's go get it, right? So I actually signed up for Planet Fitness. Sorry, Planet Fitness, not saying anything wrong with you, but as I'm signing the paperwork, this lady goes, you can't bring your gallon of water in. I was like, I don't even want to be here. So I canceled my membership like on the spot and left. And then Retro Fitness over in Catonsville had opened up, right? And now people are going to be like, where's Catonsville? Don't worry. One day you'll look and you'll find it. But anyway, so I find it. I started working out there, and that's where I was going for almost like 6 years. And I went from being, and it's funny because you hit it right on the nail, right? I went from being like 236 down to like 177, right? And I thought I liked the way I looked, but then like people were like talking to me and they're like, hey, I think you might be sick, or I think you might have cancer, or they're saying like the craziest shit. And I'm like, yo, oh my God, like I'm too skinny. So I like started adding weight back on. I went from like 180 to like 210. And I was like, I hate how I feel. So like I started like trying to figure out that balance point of where I wanted to be at. And so once I got to like in that 190 to 195 shoot, for those promoters out there who keep asking me, that was like, this is where I'm meant to be. It's like in this zone, I feel like healthy. Plus I feel like I'm so kind of strong, and I don't feel like people look at me like, oh, he must be going through something, some kind of sickness, because he looks really thin. I'm like, stop it.
Dude, I'll tell you, like, I mean, I don't know about you, but like me, myself, being turning 35 in a couple weeks, 36, I'm 35 now, but like I come from that generation of like, I guess you didn't really, at least for me, you didn't really, um, guys didn't know. For example, my stepfather, as much bad stuff I could say about him, the one good thing he did instill was a work ethic in me. And he was the type of guy that if he was sick, this dude, I remember he cut his leg with a sawzall and literally just threw super glue and then wrapped it in electrical tape and kept working. So like I came up with that mentality. So you didn't speak about how you felt. There's no excuses being sick. So hey, look, I think a lot of us deal with mental health issues and stuff like that. And like I get anxiety. And honestly, my fiance is a big part of me. Being able to open up about it. But body dysmorphia for me was a big one. Like even at my biggest, I mean, I was big. I was, like I said, I was 400 pounds. I was obviously overweight. I was a fat guy, but I was never, and I don't know why, whether my bone structure, genetics, whatever. I never was a guy that was, um, I don't know how to say it. Like, you see some guys and they're just like sloppy fat, I guess you could call it, if you will.
Yeah.
And then there's guys out there that are, like a guy like Otis, for example, from the WWE. He's definitely not, in my opinion. Like, yes, he's obviously a large guy, but he's not. I don't even know who to compare it to. Like the revolting blob from Billy Madison. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
just a solid fat, and I always was like that. I always had a big gut and everything. So I was lucky in that aspect where I was like, okay, I'm on the scale. It's saying 390 whatever, but I'm looking. I'm like, I look okay. And then I see photos now, and I put those side by sides, and I'm like, why the hell did anyone let me wrestle? Like, holy like you don't realize it. And now I'm at the point where like I was weighing myself every day, man. It was bad. Like, honest to God, it was like if I went up like a pound, I was having like I'm not eating today. And then like, I went down 2 pounds. I'm like, all right. And then the next day I went back up 2 pounds, and then learn, again, like I've always worked out. I always was into sports and athletics, but there's a science and there's an art and there's a way to, you don't realize that you could gain 6 pounds just in water, and that 6 pounds could just sit in water, and then the next day you could be down 6 pounds, and you could be up. So like, to find where you are, that's why I tell people like I'm like 240 something, 250, and then muscle, then all of a sudden, like I said, I got down to 239, and then all of a sudden I'm like, wait, how am I pushing 255 again? But then I'm like, well, you're in the gym, you're working hard, you change up your routine, muscle weighs more. There's so many different things, but it's that mentality. And like you said, like people come up to you, hey, are you sick? Are you okay? You don't look right. What's going on with you? But in your mind, you're going to the gym and you're busting ass. But now people are going like, man, you don't. And then that puts it into your head like, wait a minute, do I not look good? So it's just all these things. And it's the weirdest things, man, because like my girl can tell me till she's blue in the face, or my stepson, you look great. You're so much in shape. And it's all, and don't get me wrong, it's very much appreciated. But if some dude at the gym comes up and goes, yo, bro, you're looking great, you're looking jacked, I will carry that through the whole day, because it's and it's just like in wrestling. You could be told by your peers, you could be told by fans, you could be told by so many different people, bro, you're amazing, you're awesome, you're awesome, you're awesome. And it takes that one person to go, you suck. And that sticks with you. And I don't know why. I don't know why we put emphasis on things that on people that, I mean, at the end of the day, okay, but I have 10 people telling me I'm great, but I have one person telling me I'm terrible. I have everyone telling me you look great, and I have one person say, you still look fat. And that one comment sticks, and then it kicks in that mental body dysmorphia, and then you just, it sucks, dude. This mental health is
Yeah.
rough.
Oh yeah, my PTSD and my anxiety like switched from being like my PTSD obviously related to like the things like are in the military, and then my anxiety is just like it's just all over the place. And like even to this day, like, and I tell people, I look at the mirror myself, I look myself in the mirror and I'm like, bro, you kind of look a little heavy today, and I know I'm not, but it's just because of the past images that I've had ingrained in my mind based on photos that I took. I was like, oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm, and I know I'm not anywhere close, but in my mind, I'm just like, I keep seeing that person. I'm like, yo, I gotta keep working hard. Gotta keep doing it.
I totally understand, because there are times where like I'm so afraid of going back to where I was. Like people get, like a lot of people do get annoyed with me. If you follow me on social media, there's a lot of my gym posts, and a lot of this stuff is not just for other, for people, for me to be like, hey, look at me, because I'd be lying if it wasn't a part of that. It's also for other people that don't think that they could do it, because I was always one of those people like, I can't do it. But it's more so for me going, remember where you were, and this is where you are, and you're not going to go backwards. So it's like my own different way. But dude, going back to the buy dysmorphia, bro, like I'll buy a shirt and it'll be snug. It'll look like a blouse. Like it will not button up here. Buttons around my waist and my stomach, like no problem. But up here, because lifting weights, and like I'll have to go from an XL to a 2X, and I like have like a mental breakdown. But it's because your body's growing and the muscles and all that. It's the best and worst thing about working out.
Yeah, I know. I noticed for me, like I have a 2XL t-shirts, right? And my dad gave me a 2XL, and I was like, yo, I can't fit into this 2XL because like in my mind, like a 2XL tells me that I'm getting fat, right? So I put it on and stuff, and it's a loose, right? And my dad's like, well, you got broad shoulders, you should be able to fit in a 2XL. Like that's not the point. So like I started wearing XLs, but then I started realizing XLs were fitting too loose as well. So I was like, well, let me start wearing like the shirt I'm wearing right now is a large. And it's loose. And I'm like, oh, I've definitely shrunk it to a medium. And like I was like, nah, I can't have this. Now it's like now I look in the mirror, I'm like, I gotta work on my chest and my shoulders and my arms. I gotta get them big. I gotta do the JR thing. Nobody cares about legs, even though I work my legs every day. It's like nobody cares about legs. Big chest, big arms. That's what people want in wrestling business.
Yeah,
So
for me,
bad.
man, like for the longest time, I was still buying like 3X and 2X shirts because that's all I was like, I'm not gonna fit into this. And then finally, my girl was like, "What are you doing?" She literally threw out all my clothes, and I had to buy everything. And everything now is literally the biggest size I wear is an XL. I have a few larges, and then like I literally like 150 pounds is basically a person, you know, and it's just crazy to think that that's what it was. But yeah, it's the best thing I ever did, and it's like my new addiction. That's where I enjoy it almost as much, if not more, at times than actually wrestling.
Oh yeah, so it's become like it's funny because you talk about that being like your addiction because I know like me like I kind of went through all those little phases too, right? Like bad breakup happened, like when I was deployed, bad breakup happened, come bad thing, more bad things happened, and I started drinking. I got into drinking like heavy, and then like I kept convincing myself like, oh, I was like I could just have 2 drinks and it'll be fine. But the problem was like I'd buy like a 6 pack a week and
Yeah.
then like finish the 2 beers within a week, and I'm like, yeah, this isn't. Even I've convinced myself that this is okay, it's not healthy. It's like I'm literally buying myself shit to like
Yep.
poison myself with. And I was like, well, beer's bad for you, so let me go get tequila. So I'm like, why am I still drinking tequila? So once
Yeah.
I got into the gym, my addiction became the gym. But what came out of that though, and this is something I kind of want to also talk about, right, is that not only did I went go from looking good, right? My trainer, well, not he's also my boss. Hi, Bruce. I know you watch every episode. So Bruce was telling me, he was like, hey man, you're at a point now that you look good. He's like, now we need to shift your mindset from looking good to being an athlete. And so we started working on new programs and stuff for me to like to do more things, right? Because I'll be real, like I'm 190 pounds, right? And I think I'm pretty solid as far as like in shape wise. But I was like, now I want to work on other things. And so I brought Bruce with me to one of our shows, one of our wrestling shows over at EWA in Bel Air, right, Maryland. And so while he's at the show, he's like, I see all the things I need to fix for you. He's like, we got to work on your explosion. We got to work on your, uh, he's like, not even just your endurance. He's like, you're pretty good at your endurance as far as like the match went. What I saw, he's like, with your explosion and your quick steps have
Hmm.
to pick up. And so like now he's like changing the program up on me. And like I see already after like 3 weeks, I just see like a huge change and just like how my body responds to everything. And I'm like, it's insane to think about like, hey, you now instead of doing like, hey, you got to do deadlifts all day. Now it's like, hey, do snatches instead. I'm like,
Yeah, I was about to say I am like I said, I'm all self-taught or being in the gym and learning from the much like wrestling, you learn from the veterans, the guys that have been in the gym. So I've been fortunate. There's a few guys in the gym that not taking me under their wing, but like working out next to me or see me, and I've made relationships. They're like, hey man, try it like this, or hey, try this, or why are you doing this, do it this way. I'm also, like I said, I'm very 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 big on World's Strongest Man. I love I just love feats of strength. Like it's just seeing any person move 1,000 pounds is just, to me, is like wow. So guys like Brian Shaw, Eddie Hall, Nick Best, Rob Oberist, I'm very big fans of them. And Rob Oberist, he went, I believe it was the Joe Rogan podcast, and basically was talking about how you don't need the deadlift. Like deadlift is if you're not. So his point was if you're not training to be a deadlifter, or you just don't want, or you're just trying to be better at deadlifting, there is no real functional need for deadlifts on a Olympic bar, because it all. And if this is true, if you look at most NFL combines or pro sports, they don't deadlift because the risk to reward ratio is not worth it. Because anyone that's ever done a deadlift on a traditional Olympic bar will know, like, you could really, really do some serious damage to you. And when I deadlift, I do it on a trap bar, which and the world of weightlifting and working out is so polarizing because I've had people go like, well, if you're not benching on a flat free weight bench, and why would you even use the Smith machine? And I just find those things like, well, yeah, okay, the bar is lighter and it's a set path, but like someone for like me, I have a messed up rotator cuff, so I can't hit heavy on my chest because of my rotator. There are some. Listen, man, I could do 3 plates, 6 plates, sorry, on a flat bench freeway bar, right? But if that's on a good day where my rotator cuff is and everything's aligned. It's not like that, and from wrestling, it's damaged. So I do the Smith machine. I do the trap bar deadlift because I'm not as low to the ground and I'm able to control it more, and it's less on my back. But I also train a lot so the way I do my thing, what I do is I lift heavy. I do pyramid, which is I start at 12 and every set 12 and 10, 8, 6, and 4, gradually getting heavier. And the way again, I completely off the mark with this, but the way I kind of put it into my mind is, well, I'm going to be in a match with another man, my main or another person. I don't want to misgender anybody in this day and age. But I'm going to be in the ring with someone working with them. My goal isn't my goal is to have a great match, but more than that is I want to be able to walk out with that person. I don't want anyone to get hurt. So the way I put it in my brain is that if I'm going to gradually lift heavier, I'm fatiguing the muscle more, but if I'm able to control. So if I start saying, like, if I'm doing, I don't know, 100-pound bench press, right? Let's say I start with that and I gradually work to 220. And I'm only hitting that for 4, but I started at 100 for 12 and gradually got heavier. So to me, it's the progression of physical. You're exhausting the muscle and gradually getting heavier. But if you're able to control it, you have muscle control and you're able to control it, then it translates over into a match. I don't do cardio. I hate cardio. Cardio. I do what I call it functional cardio. So I do tire flips. I drag tires. I throw the tires over my head. I do sled pulls. I do farmers walks. I do stuff that, in my mind, is endurance cardio. I don't think you get much out of sitting, walking on a treadmill or running. And this is a straight up, honest to God truth. The way I dropped the weight, yes, I did walk, and we still go on hikes and stuff, but I don't really credit that to my weight loss. I think a lot of it was lifting weights consistently and changing my diet and adding in, like, and when I do the tires and stuff, it's maybe I'll do 3 sets at a 250-pound tire, and it's about 30 flips total. 10, 5 up, 5 down, and it's nothing. It's just to get the blood pumping and the heart going. But I'm not on a, I couldn't sit on an elliptical for an hour. And the people that do it, good for them. You're better than me. I just, even with a TV there, or my iPad, watching a wrestling match, or what, I can't. I can. Put me in the woods and I'll walk 3 miles, but sit me on like a hamster wheel, I can't do it. It's just not for me. And everything I try to do to bring it back is to equate to wrestling. So I do snatch and cleans. I do power cleans. I do a lot of stuff to build up on that explosion and build up that muscle fatigue. Because, like I said, my biggest thing is I want to be able to have a great match, but I don't want anyone getting hurt. And I'm sure you've seen it. I've seen guys that, and this goes to one of the things you were talking about, how important it is. Listen, there are guys that don't go to the gym that have great endurance and never hurt anybody. But I've seen guys that, you should go to the gym because, you're not protecting people, you're fatigued. So, it goes hand in hand. It's just, you got to put the work in. And actually one of the things I posted maybe a week ago, guys like Tommy Dreamer, guys like I know D'Lo Brown, Jerry Lynn, a bunch of people that have had prominent positions in companies or still do, have always told me, if you just lost the weight, you'd get a shot. If you just lost the weight, you'd get a shot. You have all the tools, you know. And I never lost the weight because I didn't do it for me, Like I was trying to lose the weight because this one told me to, that one told me to. But until I actually did it for myself because I wanted to, that's when it happened. And I think a lot of people get in that mindset of like, well, I got to lose weight so I'll get a contract, or I got to lose the weight for this. Me losing the weight was basically like, if I don't do it, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And I think if people can get into that mindset of like, I am going to do this because I want to, and I need to, then it happens. But if you do it for reasons that are not pure, then it's just not going to happen because your heart's not going to be into it.
Yeah, it's funny. So you brought up a couple points I kind of want to touch back on, right? So I was listening to that Joe Rogan Experience episode as well, and I did hear that. And I know over he got a lot of heat for that too, because a lot of people were pissed about it. And I think about it too. Like when I can pull 455 on an Olympic bar, nope, and with problems. Let's be real, okay? My form isn't the best at it, and it's okay. At 405, my form's really good, and I can pull really quick. But I love being on the hex bar because being on the hex bar, like I can do more stuff with it, right? So I won't put on as much weight, and maybe I'll be at 225, but I'm also working on stuff that people aren't working. Something you can't do on an Olympic bar, right? So like
the hex bar, it works more of your quads. Not to cut you off, it definitely hits more of your legs and your quads. Again, it's this gym culture is, I don't want to say toxic. I hate that word. I really do. But there is look, we're all, when you go into the gym, it's a bunch of guys and girls that are basically trying to, it's a big peacock fest, You got the young kids that go in there that don't know their ass from their elbow about lifting weights, and I was one of them. And they go in there with their friends and they're trying to, like, I'll go on a lat pull down and this is not me bragging, I'll do 170 for 12. It's a lot of weight for a lat pull down. And I see kids that are not even 150 pounds fresh out of junior high school trying to do 120, and they're killing themselves. But they're young, and that's what they do. And then you have guys that are animals in the gym that are pushing 4 plates, 5 plates on benches for sets. I think the problem with the gym is that we get into this mindset of like I said, well, you use the elliptical, you use the Smith machine. That's for that. That's not really lifting. It's like, but then why is it here? And I hate that because listen, there are times where like I get in that mentality of like, I'm not going to use the Smith. I'm going to use a flat bench, and then the next day my rotator cuff feels like it's just in constant pain. So it's dumb. If you're able to do something and do it safely and it's building, who cares? And I get why, look, it's like I said, deadlifting is that there's the 3 ego lifts, right? It's the bench, the squat, and the deadlift. Everyone wants to lift heavy at those 3. So if you're telling someone, well, there's no point in really deadlifting. If you're not powerlifting, world's strongest man, or just trying to be a really good deadlifter, there really is no real, like, there are so many machines and other exercises that will do what the deadlift does. And then I've heard the deadlift works the entire body. Okay. But is it really worth for a 9 to 5 person to do it? But if you like deadlifting, do deadlifts. For any of us to tell you what not to do, you can do whatever the hell you want. I mean, dude, I've gone to the gym and see people use machines that they're not supposed to use it for that. And hey, if you're happy with it, by all means. I don't get the hate with, like, you want to have an opinion, that's one thing, but to be like, you're, and this is coming from a guy who's a, world-class athlete, strongest man, few times over competitor. You're really going to tell him what's good or not?
Right. Well, so my point was with the hex bar, right, is for myself. I like jumping. Like, it's one of my favorite things to do. And I'm very open about that, right? If you guys watch any of my videos on like TikTok, wherever, you'll see I'm always jumping something. So using a hex bar, like, I can control where my hands are. I can control the way I'm pulling myself. I can control my landings. You can't do that with an Olympic bar. So people watch me. and not that this is recommended, so please don't do this. But when you have 285 pounds on a hex bar deadlift, and you are jumping with it, I don't see a lot of people doing that. You know what I mean? And it's not like I'm trying to brag about that either, but it's like I think to myself, like, hey, I'm forcing my body to exert this much energy off the ground so that when I do let go of this bar and I do the same thing, I should be getting higher, should be jumping with that power. Because and how's it relate? Hey, when you hit an international spot and you have to jump over somebody, you kind of want to make sure you can clear them. Otherwise, you getting hit in the dick like really hurts.
That's never fun. Yeah, man. Like again, when I deadlift, like, look, my goal was to hit 500 deadlifting. I did it on the hex bar, and I have no real desire to deadlift again. And I didn't do it for any reason. The fact that I want to hit 500, and I did it. I do a lot of strongman type training and lifting. I've been offered to do competitions. I've been offered to go to amateur, very, very, very like bottom of the barrel amateur competitions. I just enjoy lifting. I admire anyone that gets in the gym. I mean, there are people that I watch on YouTube or Instagram, and I just, there's a guy I posted it about maybe 2 weeks ago. His name's Dave. He just started in the gym, and like Schwarzenegger found him and was like giving him tips. And I'm like, that's, he's a very big guy and he's on his weight loss journey. But it's like people like that motivate me. Like when I see one of the guys I made online, a friend, his name is Jay, got into a very bad car accident or motorcycle accident years ago. He's wheelchair bound. The dude goes in the gym every single day, and he's sitting there in a wheelchair pushing 300 pounds on a bench. Like stuff like that is motivating, and stuff like that. Like that's where I'm like, there's no excuses. And, people like that get it in there, and people like that are doing it. Then why do you care if somebody's using a Smith or deadlifting this way or whatever? It's just, I don't know. I just don't understand the negativity when it comes to certain things with gym, especially in the gym culture. And it is a lot like wrestling too. There's a lot of things where I'm like, why are you putting so much energy towards this or that? And it's just weird.
Yeah. It's funny because that's now that I've lost the weight, like you have become that person. Like I look at your Facebook post, I'm like, hey yo, like he in the gym right now. I gotta be in the gym too. Like if he's working hard, I'm working hard too. Like
man, that's awesome. I get, I don't want to say a lot, but I get a decent amount of messages from people like, hey, how'd you do it? Hey, any opinions, anything? Dude, I'm not an expert. I don't know what will work for everybody. I just know what will work for me. And if somebody turns to me and goes, hey man, I started working out because of you, I mean, that's cool. But honestly, if they want advice, there's plenty of people out there. Tony Nese, one of my good friends, he has his own program. But I mean, I always give people advice where I can, but I'm not an expert in any means. I just know what works for me. I've had people, just recently, a wrestler named Asher Morales, who I've known for years. He drove about an hour and a half just to come work out because he wanted to come work out and see what I do. So like that's what's cool. And if, like I said, I never thought I'd be the guy to make people go to the gym, but the fact that it's happening and people are like, hey, you're a big reason, or you're an inspiration, or like, hey man, I just started working out and I got, I'm down 20 pounds and it's because of you, or like you inspired me. Like that's like, that honestly means just as much to me as like a fan coming up to me or a young wrestler being, hey man, I watched you on this indie show and I really want to work you, or like you inspired me. Like it's just as cool.
Yeah, I agree. I love like going up and like asking people for advice and stuff like that, especially in the wrestling world, right? Because like that's the only way we're ever gonna get better. So like one of the things like I started doing recently was, I forget who said it to me, but when they said it to me, I was like, yo, I'm just gonna go to everybody else and start saying it to them. And what they said was, what are 2 things that I can work on, right? And it just kind of blew my mind because I was like, yo, like that's such an easy question to like ask everybody. And like usually people will have something for you. Sometimes they're gonna be like, I didn't get to check your match out, or I didn't get to see this. This is what I think you can work on. But recently I had it brought up to me, right? I asked this question to another person, and he had told me your footwork and storytelling, right? And it was one of those things where I got to thinking about, it's like, damn, like the footwork I can always get with my trainer and just be like, hey man, am I in this position? Am I in that position? Like, how can I do this? How can I do that? But there's a storytelling aspect I got to think about. I was like, damn, dude, like I know a lot of people who are like really good at storytelling and who advocate so much for storytelling and like the art of selling and the art of like, describing things. And so recently I had a practice match with one of my trainees. And after the practice match, one of my friends came to me and was like, hey, you need to do this, 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 and this. And I got to thinking about it. I was like, man, like I didn't even set up the person I was working with with success because I didn't think about the story that should have been put into play. Right. I was just like, we're just gonna throw a match together. It's gonna be like 5 minute practice match, and we're just gonna go. I called all the spots, right, and we put everything together. But I also didn't think about, hey, this person can possibly get lost, and this person could, this could be. Didn't think about her character into the aspect of how the story could work. So when I got to think about it now, I was like, damn, like it's such an important part to like putting matches together. So I was like, that's kind of one of the other topics I wanted to talk with you about because, as a person who came from one area of wrestling into another area of wrestling, even in that area of wrestling and deathmatch wrestling, like you're telling stories. And so seeing the person who comes in and then you and I got to work, back over at we were at IWA. I was like, yo, let me talk with him because I know like he could shed more light on like the art of telling a great story as far as like between two different workers.
I mean, it's I do try to fancy myself as someone that tries to tell a good story and invoke emotions. I don't think there's been anyone that has mastered it. I do think there are guys that have come around. Two of them that come to my mind right away would be number one would be Jake Roberts. I think Jake Roberts' art of the way he moved and what he did and the way he conveyed it to the audience. He did nothing, but got so much out of nothing. And I also think that a guy like, believe it or not, and people are going to probably think I'm like crazy, but Cena, because Cena did nothing, but you believed into him. So there are great wrestlers, and what I mean by that is there are guys that can go in that ring for an hour and just be a machine, but there's no pizzazz to it. And there are great storytellers, a Hogan, a Cena. Um, the it's so hard to break down and explain. But the gist of a story of storytelling is, ideally it's good versus evil, right? It's if you're going into a match and, for us, for example, I didn't know you from a hole in the wall. You didn't know me. We didn't have heat. We didn't have a program. We were coming into what is essentially a cold match, right? Well, and it's my first time there, and I believe maybe it was your first or second time there. So you're established. Okay, you've been established as the baby. I'm coming in as the heel. Well, what do I need to right off the bat? And this is my way of thinking for every single show I'm on. Even though I can be at a company for years and years and years, I have to think that they're still seeing me for the first time because there's no TV. Yes, there's internet and this and that, but so in my opinion, you need to do something, any little nuance to establish who is the heel, who is the face. Whether that is something as simple as you go to lock up and, oh, I don't want to touch you, I'm backing off, I'm between the ropes, or it's like, come on, motherfucker, let's go. Um, but during the course of the story, the match, you tell a story, and it could be something as simple as, for example, um, we're working and you're up on me, and then you go to hit the ropes and Foxy grabs your leg, and then I cut you off. And then throughout the whole match, I'm distracting the ref and she's getting on you and she's getting on you and she's taking her pop shots. And then eventually something happens where towards the end of the match, something's gonna happen where like you're firing up and she hops up on the apron and you're in her face, and then you move and boom, I not hit her into her and she knocks off the apron. That, you got your comeuppance. She got what she got coming to her. In the aspect of deathmatch wrestling, which is a completely different animal in its own right, um, the story should be the escalation of violence. Now I feel like that's lost because a lot of the death matches that are done today are, for layman's terms, violence for the sake of violence. Um, it becomes hard when you open the match up with smashing a bundle of light tubes over your opponent's head for no reason. When it means something, then it has impact. But when you're just doing it to do it, it loses all meaning, and then you're just putting yourself in a deeper hole. When it comes to deathmatch wrestling, and I look to guys like Masada, Alex Colon. There's a way to slowly build and build and build and build and build until you hit that crescendo. Um, but it's an art, and if anyone ever says to anyone like, I don't need to learn how to tell a story. I know how to do it. No, you're always learning because there are elements and there's things you need to do and little nuances and it's the hardest thing in the world because you could go we could call a match like, oh my god, I'm gonna do this to you, and then you're gonna you're gonna fire up, and then I'm gonna pull you by your head. We could call this match, and in our minds, in our heads, we could be like, the crowd's gonna react, and then we go out there and they're like, you have to get them invested. And if the story, so this goes back to what I was saying. Like, you could put, I'm trying to think of two guys, and I don't want to shit on anybody, like, because I'm beyond that point in my career and my life. But I'm trying to think of two guys. All right, so for example, like, people think I'm crazy when I say this. I'm not a big Ricky Steamboat fan. I think he's phenomenal. I think he's great. But he's not my cup of tea. I just think it's bleh, it's boring. I can't sit and watch. If somebody said, "Hey, do you want to watch Ricky Steamboat versus Ric Flair for an hour?" I'd be like, "No." Not because I think they're terrible or I don't, whatever. I can't. I don't want to watch just guys trade holds back and forth. Like I don't like. That's not what I like. But if you said to me like, "Hey, do you want to watch Jake Roberts versus Rick Martel?" And yes, because I'm compelled to see what Jake does and the nuances and the way he moves and his body language, and it's flavor. So you could be like I said, you could be the greatest in-ring wrestler, and you could have this fantastic, like, how many times have you heard fans saying like, this guy could out, on the indies, this guy can go, like Bryan Danielson, for example, right? When he was in Ring of Honor, the dude was having stellar matches, awesome matches. But like at the end of the day, I don't know. It was just kind of like, okay, you're a wrestler, cool. Like, there needs to be a story. Why was a guy like Cena on top? Because there's story. And it's something that you need to. And the story could be something as simple as like, for example, there's a spot I like to do when I'm working. I think I might even done it with you, or maybe I didn't. But it's the I'll get a guy in an arm ringer, and then I'll pull his hair, and then he'll get right back up, and I'll pull his hair, and then he gets it back up again, and I'll pull his hair down, and then he'll get up on the third time, arm ringer me, and then pull my hair, and then I flip out and I yell at the referee, he pulled my hair. Well, I just did it 3 times, but that is a little bit of a story. Like, well, no, well, now I just did it 3 times. Well, now I'm bitching. And the biggest thing I think guys happen to lose in the translation of any type of wrestling is credibility. And if you think about it, and I think more so in the way indies are done now. So if we're working, right, and I clothesline you and I drop kick you and I kick you in the head and I body slam you and I drop an elbow on you and you kick out on 2, the fuck does that say about me? I think there needs to be the builds. It's a very hard thing to teach, and it's a very hard thing to convey, because it's something that you just got to get the repetitions in and find your groove and find the nuances that you do and how to apply them. Selling is a big part of it too. Some guys like Rey Mysterio. If you ever watch a Rey Mysterio match, there's a big, and I don't think a lot of people ever really notice it, but the shine, which I'm sure I'm not breaking any fourth walls here. Anyone that's watching knows what a shine is. When Ray does his shine, it's very quick. He doesn't do a long shine, and he gets cut off, and he fights from underneath, because that's the story. He's the underdog. He's the little guy. He's constantly trying to fight back up and fight back up and fight back up. And then finally, 9 times out of 10, the heel slips on the proverbial banana peel, and then Ray takes over. That's telling a story. And that's the formula for every Ray match. Once you find that formula, so for me, for example, as a babyface, as the good guy, and it was hard for me coming out of death matches full time because one, that's all I was getting booked in. People was like, I want to wrestle the death match guy. I want to do this. I want to have a hardcore match with when I was Stockade at the time. But it's hard for me to get beat up. Like, let's say I'm wrestling Red Dog. It's hard for people to go, why is he got body slammed and he's hurt? I just saw him last week get slammed off the top rope through cinder blocks or through 3 panes of glass. So again, like, goes back to credibility. I'm going to sell for no offense, Red Dog on a body slam, but I just saw him get slammed off the top rope from Masada through a pane of glass door. That's the problem. So what I did was, after I gradually started to slow down on that, I knew that I needed to do something where I could get sympathy, because how could someone that did all the things that I did get sympathy from getting beat up when people have seen me get beat up way worse? Like, how could you care? Oh, you got suplexed. Oh, but I saw you get thrown through a flaming door. I know you're going to be okay. So that is where I was like, okay, well, if I bring someone with me that the heel can put the heat on, or the heel can put in a position. So that's where Foxy came in, and Foxy, we told the story. She's my best friend, and we've worked together for years. But Foxy also now has created the kryptonite, if you will, because now something can happen to her where now it puts me in check, where like the heel could grab her and I'm not going to go full board, or they could hit her or whatever. And then on the other hand, I have someone where, oh, big bad Kaide, Mr. Deathmatch, Mr. Wild and Crazy, badass mother effer. Well, why are you using this 110-pound female to trip a guy? So that's, again, and that's where I can, I can't teach anyone. Like, for example, I can't teach you how to be Red Dog and tell your story as Red Dog, just like you can't teach me how to be Kaide. The only way, in my opinion, that you get better at telling a story is by watching the ones that are really good at it. So you're Jake Roberts, Cena, Dusty, Raven, Taker. I mean, there's a litany. You just need to find the guys that you are like, okay, I like how this guy does. Mick Foley. There's just, and you could do a whole match, man. Like, you could work an entire match just selling. Like, I worked a guy named Pat Sawyer. We did a last man standing, and we had a feud. This was the blow off. The bell rang. I charged him. Boom. He hits me with a big boot, which is one of his big moves right off the bat. And then for most of the beginning of the match, I'm working from underneath. And it's different because no one's ever seen me in that vulnerability. And then it took everything. And then the finish of the match was he kept putting me through all this punishment. I just kept getting up. And then finally, I hit him. We did a big spot, a big DDT off the top rope through a door. But it was because he was pandering to it was a slip up. And he still almost got up and collapsed, but I was able to get up. So there's just ways to do it. It's just so hard to be like, yeah, tell your story like this, because I don't know what Red Dog would do, or I don't know what Rey Mysterio would do. I just know what I would do in situations, and you have to react naturally. If that makes, I know that was a very long-winded ramble, but I hope somewhere along the way people got some part knowledge out of it. And when I was training guys, man, that was one thing. They were like, well, how do I tell a good story? It's like, you can't, there are some things you just can't teach. It just comes with repetition. And listen, man, I've been doing this since 2005 in ring. I've been training since 2004. There are times, man, where I watch a match I do, and I'm like, that was a great match. And I watch it, go, I should have done this. I should have done that. I should have done this here. I should have sold this. If you're satisfied, if you watch a match yourself and go, that was perfect, you're done wrestling. It should never be perfect. You should always find something, whether it's a way you did a move, your footwork, your selling, anything. There's always something you should be able to go, I need to do that better. And that's it, man. I mean, I wish I could be like, hey, man, here's the recipe for to tell a great story, but there's so many intricate things that go into it, like rhymes and reasons, and it's just, plain and simple, cold match. If you're a babyface, sell your ass off. Make them believe you're in peril. Make them believe that you. My trainer Mikey once told me, sell over the top rope. Try to look at the. If you can make eye contact or see the person sitting in the very last row, and you can feel like you're making contact with them, well then everyone else that's in front of them is seeing that as well. So if you're a baby face, just make sure you're selling and you're making them believe like come on, you guys need to get behind me. And then if you're the heel, slow your ass down. Don't worry about doing everything you need to know how to do, and just be slow, methodical, and make sure you're, whatever type of heel you are, you're getting your heat in, whether it's your a cocky chicken shit heel and you're talking trash, or you're a big brooding, Jason Voorhees monster and you're just stalking your opponent. But those are the basic, like if I had to say, like, here's the basic foundation: babyface, sell, and always show that fire, and the heel, take your time and just be methodical, and that's kind of the basis, I would assume, and then you just kind of add your own flair to it.
So I think like one thing that I started to like do right is to help because you brought it up perfectly, right? You're talking about, you're not going to be sure what Rey Mysterio is going to do. You're not sure what Red Dog's going to do. You're not going to be sure what Cade's going to do, right? I mean, even though it's you, right? But
No, I don't know what
it's
I'm going to
something I started. So something I started doing myself, right? Was I started I got an exercise from another person, right? And he was talking about ask yourself questions repeatedly, but ask yourself as your character, right? Don't ask yourself as like, oh, hey, I'm Cliff. No, it's hey, what does Red Dog prefer? Does Red Dog prefer Pepsi or Coke, right? Because like if you're answering those questions, you're building the world around, and then you're able to react the way like you want your character to react. So I started thinking about those things and start adding myself those questions. And then like now I'm like, okay, I kind of got a better grasp on who my character is, what he wants to do, how he wants to portray things. Now it's like, all right, now I gotta start asking other people about their characters and kind of understand like what their world is. And you know, when I got to thinking about it, I was like, the story that I should have been telling like on like, this Sunday, right? This last Sunday, in this practice match was it's her name was Taylor. Love you, Taylor. But it's pretty much like a David and Goliath story, but you got to kind of understand like, hey, like you in this case, I was a big baddie, but I was also the baby face while she was supposed to be the heel because her character is a heel type character. But regardless, it was like, hey, you got to give them something to sell, and then I had to fight back, which is something that you and I talked about last year. Is about the whole like looking up and like seeing people and connecting with the crowd and stuff like that, and giving them a reason to cheer for you, like to
support.
give you that support, right? And so I was like, damn, bro, like I'm falling back on these things that I haven't been doing, and in matches, live matches, I've been doing them, and I started yelling at myself. I was like, listen. And I keep telling the guys in practice, right? If you're doing this in the ring now, you're gonna do it out there in the show.
Yeah.
So I keep telling them, like practice like you're playing in you're in the real thing. So now I have to go back and reteach myself, like, hey, eyes up, look over the top rope, right? Like start thinking about the things that you're doing because you want to garner all that sympathy, especially as a baby face. And then, like you said, as a heel, you just want to be a complete tool. Like you just want to be the biggest douchebag you can be. Because again, we can talk about another match that I was in recently, right? And I someday I'll get that footage, and I should have been recording it for myself, but I just wasn't. But in this match, I was supposed to be like the cocky ass, like I was bigger than the person I was working. I was supposed to be this cocky ass dude, and we ran this spot, and I was just talking trash the whole time. And then I had my comeuppance, and like the crowd popped enormously for this guy when I started getting beat up. And it's like now I got to go back. I'm like, yo, okay, I got to keep like building on the things that like I've already kind of set the groundwork with, and I've been excited about. But it's almost like you have to relearn your stories every single time and where you want attack points, right? Like something, I should have been thinking about. And these are, again, just me kind of just like out throwing them out there, right? As I'm a bigger dude than the person I was working with. They should have been like attacking my leg, right? Because like that's something like that's a weak point for a taller person, right? And like those little things like matter when you want to tell the bigger picture. And so now I have to go back And because I'm such a big advocate for learning the little things to make the bigger picture look cleaner, that now I have to put that into storytelling. Like, look at the little things in the story, because you want to make you want to tell the bigger story, but you want the story to stand out more.
I
So like now I'm like going back to try to learn that.
yeah, I think one of the issues in wrestling today, I think I don't want to say it's a lost art, but I think a lot of what I've noticed, a lot of the newer generation of guys, and I feel so weird saying that, but a lot of them a lot of it is also, you got to remember, it's all about that quick, like that gift or that instant, boom, I hit this cool move and it's gonna make viral videos on YouTube and stuff. A lot of people, and then I think a lot of that has also been propelled by like a lot of the TV wrestling you've seen today, like AEW. As great of a product it is, there's not a lot of real storytelling, like not a lot of like for example, like I think the best thing in wrestling going right now is the bloodline thing. And the story they did with Cody, I know a lot of people are all twisted that Cody didn't win the belt, but it's like, it was a story. You gotta, you gotta let that story play out. Superman didn't beat Lex Luthor in the opening of the comic book. We gotta build to it. But I think that's what people seem to lose, is like they want it now, or they gotta get everything in, like, and it's hard because, like, you were talking about, like, so when I work as like a baby face, if somebody said, hey, like, who is Kaide Lothbrok as a baby face, it's like, well, he's a uncontrollable, wild, like willing to take a punch to the face, to give a punch to the face, and not afraid to abuse his body, and he's this no nonsense badass. And that's a lot of who I am personally. Like, I mean, I'm not gonna go fight somebody, but I don't take, I stand up for myself, um, and then as a heel, Kate is this, evil, bitter, like, I will bite your finger off and spit it in your face type person. And I, like, there's plenty of times when I work as a heel, like I'll stand on a guy's hand and be like, like, it's just, you find your groove and how to extract emotions from people. Like, for example, you were talking about how, like, you were the bigger guy. You don't need to necessarily do something with the leg. It could be something as simple as, like, you miss something and you're like, there's so many different ways to tell a story. And it's just, and it's always good to get your ideas from outside of wrestling, whether it be a movie or a comic book. But like, I think the big issue with a lot of, with wrestling, is that people just aren't focused on that part of it. And maybe it is due to, like, what's going on TV. I think a lot of people watch, like, Monday Night Raw and not realize, like, they got like 6 minutes, and a minute of that is a commercial. Like, they can't tell a story. On the indies, we kind of have that luxury of, like, you got to tell that story because this is where you're getting your reps in. This is where you're learning. So, I mean, dude, honestly, from what you're saying, like, you're definitely going to get there. I know you're still fairly new. How many? Only a few years still, right?
Yeah, 3.
Yeah, I mean, dude, like, they say, I mean, well, I've always heard, like, you don't really start to get it until you're 5 years in. And then I heard you don't really start to even understand it till you're 10 years in. So you got a ways to go. But I mean, everything you're saying, and I think you have the luxury of being someone that went through the military and have that strict training and that mentality, but also you're a grown adult. And I think that's why your mentality is way different than a lot of these other people, because you understand that things don't come without repetition and time. And I think that's something that I really do. And there are some guys I've met, but I think a lot of the generation now, the younger guys, are just about, like, well, I can do a shooting star. Why can't I be on the show? It's like, well, dude, it's great. You can do that. But, and then that's another thing that I know I'm going down this weird rabbit hole of storytelling and stuff and psychology. But, like, if you give if we let's say, for example, like, we were gonna work another match, right? We knew it. We worked our first match, and then we were told, like, hey, you guys are gonna work one or two more times, and we're gonna make a little program. Cool. So then if we go into this match and you give me every move that you know, and I give you every move that that I know, what do we do next time? And that's, psychology and storytelling go hand in hand. Um, And that's the thing I think a lot of people forget. Like, I see these matches, dude, on the indies, where these, like, young guys, they do some shit that I'm like, dude, that's incredible. They're like, oh yeah, yeah. I'm like, bro, that's you did a 630 to the floor and you landed on your feet. That's awesome. What are you gonna do next show now? Because where do you go from there? And that's part of storytelling. That's part of psychology. Is you gotta know when to rev the engine and then pull it back. So
I like that. I like that a lot. So we're gonna move this over to our second favorite segment of the Three Count
right.
podcast. I don't even know anymore because we have so many of these little things. But it is one of my favorite things to do. It is called Pin Submit DQ, and here's how it works. Mr. Lothbrok, I'm gonna ask you three questions, three group of wrestlers, and you gotta pin one, submit one, and DQ one.
All right.
And however you want to do it, right? So our first three, I'm glad you mentioned these names because I just want to bring them back up, right? So we're gonna go with Jake the Snake Roberts, we're gonna go with John Cena, and we're gonna go with Mankind.
Well, let's see. Now, are they pinning me or is this me pinning them?
Oh, you're pinning them.
I'm pinning
Yeah,
them.
you're beating them.
Then
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to pin Jake just because I can do that. I would have to DQ Foley because I think we could go with a program later, and then obviously I would have to tap out Cena.
That's right. We tapping out Cena. He said never gonna quit. Nah, today you will. Let's go with three other familiar personnel that you would recognize, right? So let's go with Odin, Loki, and Thor.
Oh Jesus. I guess I would have to DQ Odin because no one's gonna beat Odin. I guess pin Thor and tap out Loki. I don't see Thor tapping out. I don't think he'll do the job that way.
Bet. And our last three that we're gonna throw out there, right? Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails.
Dude, I don't know anything about Sonic, Knuckles, or Tails. I mean, I know who they are, but I don't know anything like other than the movies. So I'm gonna pin Knuckles because he seems to be the most badass. I'm gonna tap out Tails because I think out of the three, he'd probably be the one to tap out first. And I probably would have to DQ Sonic because I feel like he would. Maybe I don't know. I don't really know much about it, but I feel like that'd be a safe bet. I feel like going over on Knuckles, I think would give me some credibility.
Yeah, I like that a lot too. Like, he's like the big power dude of the group anyway, and then you just shut him down.
Like I said, I never played the games. I only saw the movie, so that's what I'm basing this off of.
Good. You know what? I can appreciate that because as a Knuckles fan myself, that would be the person I would pick too to pin because I'm like, look, I'm just trying to get you, like, just go for the 3 count because you are the most badass of them all, right? And then Tails, Tails would just submit because I feel like Tails is Tails. And then Sonic, of course, you got to pin Sonic because he's the focal guy. Like, he's a legend. He's the guy.
Good point. We have to change it.
But with that, man, I appreciate you coming on our show. But go ahead and let our listeners and our viewers once again know where they can find you.
Kaide Lothbrok on Facebook, Instagram, and what's the other one? Twitter. I have a Twitter. I don't know why, but I have a Twitter. YouTube, Kaide Lothbrok, and then if you're in the Binghamton, Center Reach, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, I don't know. If you go on my socials, you'll see where I'm going to be. Foxy will be in tow, so just come hang out, buy some merchandise, and hopefully we entertain you and make you smile or hate us, whatever our job is that night.
So, like we do with every great part of these shows and these episodes, these interviews, and like every great part of a wrestling match, we gotta take this home because this is the 3 Count Podcast that's now entering 201, and I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And like every good Sherpa, which I like to think I am, it's never about me. It's about who's entering the ring. So who's entering the ring? You see the man right there, the legend himself, Kaide Lothbrok, and you guys know what to do. Tune in to the next episode and be there, or you're legitimately just following us on all of our social media platforms. You're subscribed to our YouTube channel. You're following us on Spotify. You're leaving us 5-star fraud / reviews that you can leave us on Apple Podcasts. You're even going on our merch store, right? Whether it's prowrestlingtees.com or even on foryourwear.com. You're checking us out. You're leaving comments. You're telling your friends about us. You're doing all that cool stuff. Or you're really just kind of waiting for this episode to end. You're waiting for the outro, and then you're choosing another episode to listen to. Kawaii. What's going on, 3 Count Nation? I'm Clifford Red Dot Miller with the catchphrase. But what I really want to do right now, go to twitter.com, right? Go over there, find us at the 3count_pod, give us a follow, give us a like, give us a comment. We want to talk to you guys. Go to IG at the 3count_pod. Give us a like, give us a follow, leave us a comment. We want to interact with you. Go to youtube.com, give subscribe, turn the bell on, turn the notifications, leave a comment. We want to talk to you. Go to anchor.fm/the 3Count Podcast, and in there, you can leave us a message, and we will talk to you. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you is that we want to talk to you. We want to have fun with you guys, and we love listening to what you guys have to say. Also, one thing I need you to do for me, the 3Count Podcast also has merchandise. Oh! At prowrestlingtees.com/the 3Count Pod. Please go buy our t-shirts. We love you guys, and we hope you love us too. So, show us some support, please.